Okay, class, am I audible to all of you?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Just give me a response. Okay. My name is Deepti and I will be taking your logical reasoning classes. And this class which I'm taking right now, this is only for first semester student. There is one more slot on Thursday from 8 to 10 for second and fourth semester student. And Sushma ma'am is taking that class. So just make sure that only first semester students are attending this class. And for your attendance, write down your name and roll number in chat box, all of you.
Good morning, ma'am. Ma'am,
Yeah,
I,
good morning.
ma'am, should we leave the class? Ma'am, I am from fourth semester.
You are from fourth semester C because right now Sushma ma'am is taking the class. So for this class, I can allow fourth semester student as well. Sushma ma'am has not contacted. Has Sushma
Hmm.
ma'am contacted the fourth semester student?
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, can you provide me the contact number of ma'am?
Yes. Okay. Contact me on my WhatsApp number right now. I will send you her number.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, and for your attendance, like I said, I will mark your attendance from the chat box and from the screenshots which I will be taking in the middle of your class. So, Laksh, if you are there, take this screenshot of the participants.
Yes, ma'am. I'm taking.
Ma'am, I have messaged ma'am.
Yeah, I didn't receive any message from you. Do you have my number? Why don't
Yes,
you
ma'am.
write down your
Ma'am, the number is
Sushma
ending
ma'am's
with
number?
652.
No, I haven't received any number, any message from your side. So why don't you take her number? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm writing her number in chat box. So just
Ma'am, I think second year students can join through the link which have been came on the group right now.
what?
मैम सेकेंड ईयर स्टूडेंट्स के लिए लिंक आया है ग्रुप पर
किसके लिए? कौन से लिस्ट के लिए?
मैम सेकेंड ईयर स्टूडेंट्स के लिए मैम ने भेजा।
See, right now, the class which मैम ने भेजा है, कौन सी मैम ने? सी, ये जो क्लास हो रही है ये फर्स्ट सेमेस्टर स्टूडेंट की हो रही है। मैं जो क्लास ले रही हूँ वो फर्स्ट सेमेस्टर बैच की ले रही हूँ, एंड सुषमा मैम है वो सेकेंड और फोर्थ सेमेस्टर की क्लास ले रही है ऑन थर्सडे 8 to 10 और Tuesday morning and Tuesday evening, fourth and second semester, Sushma ma'am is taking that class. Okay, so let's begin with today's class. Laksh, have you taken the screenshots?
Yes, ma'am.
No. Okay. Okay, the name of this paper is Logical Reasoning, and the main objective, first we are going to discuss the syllabus of this paper, and the main objective of this paper is to make you understand the basic concept of logic, what logic is, what is the aim of logic, what are the concepts that is associated with logic concerning propositions, arguments. There are two different kinds of argument, that is deduction and induction. Then how logic has evolved, how the transition of logic took place right from the traditional time to modern time. So this is what we are going to discuss in this syllabus. And for this we have to, there are 4 units. First unit is basic concept. In this unit, we will be reading what logic is, what is the aim of logic, how to draw an argument. Okay. Then we have to read premises, conclusion, and argument. Premises is basically the evidence. The word premise or premises is used to denote the evidences in argument. Then deduction, induction, these are two types of an argument. Then validity, truth and soundness. The truth, here we have to discuss what is the relationship between truth and falsity of a proposition and validity or invalidity of an argument in logic. So this is unit 1. Unit 2 is categorical proposition. There we have to understand what categorical propositions are. Then the component of categorical proposition. There are 4 kinds of categorical proposition which we will be discussing in today's class. Then we have quality, quantity, and distribution of terms. Then the traditional square of opposition. Then conversion or version and contraposition. Third unit is categorical syllogism. So there we have to understand what categorical syllogism is, what is the standard form of categorical syllogism, then how to draw a categorical syllogism with the help of moods and figures. Then the fourth unit is propositional logic. Propositional logic, where we make use of symbols to simplify a given statement, where we make use of constant and variable symbols to simplify a statement as well as to simplify an argument. And then we have to find out whether that argument is valid or not. So basically in your entire syllabus, we will be examining whether the argument is valid or not. So in fourth unit, we will make use of truth table to investigate whether the argument is valid or not. So in 4 unit, we have to read symbols and translation, then truth function, then truth table for statements and statement form, then truth tables for arguments and argument form. Okay, so this is what your syllabus is. And in case if you don't understand anything, you can unmute yourself and ask your doubt. Now
Ma'am,
for book,
I have one doubt.
yes,
Ma'am, is it similar to mathematical
yes.
reasoning what we learned in 12th?
No, not exactly.
Okay, ma'am.
Not exactly. Then the recommended reading for you is first one is I Am Copy, that is Introduction to Logic, and the book that we follow is Krishna Jain, and that is also a textbook on Introduction to Logic. So let me show you the cover page of the book. Okay, this is the book that we are going to follow, a textbook of logic by Krishna Jain.
Ma'am,
I Am Copy is also there, but yes,
no, ma'am, nothing, ma'am.
yes, okay. See, I Am Copy by Krishna Jain is easier to understand. Okay, the language is quite simple, so I generally recommend this book for the students. And I will be providing this PDF of this book in your group, and you don't have to read the entire book, you just have to read the topics which is there in your syllabus. So topic wise page number from this book will also be provided to you, so you need not to worry about it. Now let's begin with today's class. So those who have joined late, write down your name and roll number in chat box. Okay, can you see the screen which I'm sharing right now for today's topic?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, so today's topic is some basic concept. Okay, there we have to understand what logic is. The logic is derived from a Greek word called logic, spelled as Logike. It means reason, intellectual ability, or argumentative method. It is the systematic study of valid rules of inference, and we can define logic as the study of the methods and principles used to distinguish between correct from the incorrect reasoning. Okay. See, whenever we talk about logic, the first word that comes to our mind is reason. Okay, these reasonings are based on certain evidences. In logic, we draw an argument on the basis of the reasoning ability of human being. So when we reason about any matter, we produce arguments to support our conclusion, and these conclusions are based on certain evidences. So our argument includes reason that we think justify our beliefs. However, not all reasons are good reasons. So whenever we are making an argument, there are certain questions that arises in our mind, that is the structure of an argument is right or not? Is the conclusion follows from the given evidences or not? Is the evidences are sufficient enough to arrive at the conclusion? Can we justify the structure of an argument? Can we validate whether the argument is right or not? So to answer these questions, there are objective criteria in the study of logic. So using these criteria, methods and techniques of logic, one can distinguish between a right and the faulty reasoning. So this is what logic is about. Now we also define logic as the science of reasoning. Why it is called science of reasoning? Science is a branch of coherently organized body of knowledge. It is a systematic study of knowledge. So similarly, logic is also a systematic study of reasoning. Logic is the study of consistent reasoning, or we can define logic as the systematic study of valid reasoning. So this is how we define logic. Now come to the aim of logic. Now what is the aim of logic? Like I said, the objective criteria of logic help us to provide methods, techniques, and devices which help us to distinguish between right reasoning and wrong reasoning, good or bad, and correct from the incorrect ones. So these are certain, this is the basic aim of logic, and but at the same time, it does not mean that only those who study logic can reason correctly. However, it is also true that those who study logic, they certainly make less error while arguing, just as a trained singer is better than the untrained ones. So similarly, a person who is acquainted with logical principle is likely to present a good argument, because the knowledge of logic helps us to face a problem in a more orderly and systematic way. So this is the aim of the logic, and it also helps us to find out the validity or invalidity of an argument. Is it making sense to you that what logic is and what is the aim of logic?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, oh,
Ma'am, will you send these
okay.
notes in the
Now,
group?
yes, I will send these
Okay, ma'am.
notes as well. Now, there are branches of logic. There are two branches of logic. First one is formal logic, and second one is informal logic. So, in formal logic, we basically evaluate an argument on the basis of the structure or the form of an argument. And your entire syllabus is a part of formal logic. And in formal logic, we evaluate an argument on the basis of the content or the matter of an argument. Okay? The argument that we do in our day-to-day life is a part of informal logic. Now come to reasoning. Like I said, logic is the science of reasoning, or logic is a systematic study of valid reasoning. So now, what do you mean by reasoning? Reasoning is a special kind of thinking. It's a mental activity or mental process which take place where we have certain bases, grounds, or evidences, and on the basis of those evidences, we arrive at the conclusion of an argument. And for evidence, like I said before, we use a term premise to denote the evidence in argument. Now, reasoning is of two types, correct reasoning and incorrect ones. So, now what is correct reasoning? Correct reasoning, when there is a right order between the evidence and the conclusion of an argument, is called correct or the consistent reasoning. Or we can say that when the conclusion follows from the evidences in a right manner, or the premises or the evidences are strong enough to support the conclusion, then that reasoning is called correct reasoning. Now, what is premises? The evidences provided to substantiate the conclusion is said to be premise, and conclusion, that which is drawn on the basis of premise, is called conclusion. So this is what reasoning is. Now come to argument. Argument is defined as a piece of reasoning. And reasoning, like I said, it is based on certain evidences, and with these evidences we try to reach at the conclusion. So argument is defined as the relational arrangement of premises and conclusion. Okay, argument is the arrangement of premises and the conclusion in the right order. And on your screen, you can see one example. So this is how we have to draw an argument in formal logic. Okay. So where we will be having certain premises, and with the help of those premises, we will draw a conclusion. An argument may just have one premise or more, but both premise and conclusion should be there to form an argument. If premises are given and conclusion is not drawn, then that is not an argument. So just see this example. The first premise is all men are mortal. Second premise is Ram is a man, and the conclusion is therefore Ram is mortal. So in conclusion, the word Ram is the subject of the argument and the word mortal is the predicate of the argument. And this subject term is common in the conclusion as well as in the second premise. Similarly, the predicate term is common in the conclusion as well as in the first premise. And the word men is called middle term, which is common in both the premises. So this is how we draw an argument in logic. This is one example. And the connecting term between the subject and predicate is called copula. And the connecting term is called copula. So, and apart from this, both the premises and the conclusion of an argument is called propositions. I hope you know what propositions are. Propositions are meaningful statements. So this is how we draw an argument. And one more thing, an argument is valid or invalid. That part we will discuss later on. So this is what an argument is. Now come to propositions. Now, what do you mean by proposition? Proposition is defined as the unit of reasoning. Proposition is a meaningful statement or meaningful arrangement of words. It has subject, predicate, and a connecting term called copula. For example, when I say all human beings are mortal, this one is an example of proposition where we have subject term, that is human being is considered as a subject of the proposition and mortal is considered as the predicate of the proposition, and the connecting term is R, that is called copula of the proposition. And we always evaluate a proposition as either true or false. Okay, so this is the basic difference between an argument and a proposition. An argument is always evaluated as either valid or invalid, and propositions are always evaluated as true or false. And a proposition is true when it describes the fact correctly, and it is false when it does not describe the fact correctly. So all human beings are mortal is an example of a proposition which describes the fact correctly, so it is true. Now propositions is of three types. The first one is tautology, a proposition which is always true. Now, can you give me an example of a tautologous proposition? Example of tautologous proposition?
All human beings are mortal.
Yes. Any other example?
Earth revolves around the sun.
The sun rises and
Yes.
falls.
Right. Now, the next one is self-contradictory, a proposition which is always false. Example is all human beings are immortal, a statement which is always false. Now, third one is contingent, a proposition which is true in some cases and false in some other case. Now, can you give me an example of a contingent proposition? Example is,
And there
it
might
is
be
raining.
rain today.
What?
All fruits are
The
sweet.
all fruits are sweets. Yes, right.
It will rain today.
Yes, it will rain today. All fruits are sweet. It can be true
Ma'am,
at some time. What?
all triangles are equilateral.
All triangles are equilateral. Yes, right. It can be true in some cases. It can be false in some other cases. So these are some of the examples of contingent. Now come to the next position is every proposition is a sentence, but every sentence is not a proposition. See, why is it so? because there are different kinds of sentences. Interrogative sentences
आपकी
are
आवाज
there,
क्लियर नहीं आ
exclamative
रही।
sentences are there. अच्छा, मेरी आवाज क्लियर नहीं आ रही?
अब आ रही है
Am
मैम।
I audible to all of you?
मैम बीच
Yes,
में
ma'am.
लैग हो रहा था।
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Now,
ma'am.
okay. What is the relationship between a proposition and sentence? Now, every proposition is a sentence, but every sentence is not a proposition. Why is it so? Because there are different kinds of sentences are there, like interrogative sentences are there, exclamatory sentences are there, informative or indicative sentences and factual statements are there, but only informative or factual statements, they are considered as propositions because we evaluate those statements as either false or true. But in the case of interrogative or exclamatory sentences, we never judge those statement as either true or false, or either as a positive statement or a negative statement. So this is the reason why every proposition is a sentence, but every sentence is not a proposition, because we may ask questions, we may give commands, but we never judge them as affirmative or the negative statement. See, for example, I can say what a beautiful day it is. So it is merely an expression. Okay, we are not going to judge that statement as either true or false. Uh, a father can order a child to shut the door. It is a command which is given to a child by the father, that is to be obeyed. So here we are not going to judge those statements as either true or false. As for example, I have written, bring a glass of water. This is not a proposition, but on the other hand, water is essential for human being, which is true. So this statement is considered as proposition. So this is the main difference between a proposition and a sentence. Why every proposition is a sentence, but every sentence is not a proposition. Next point is, it is important to recognize which propositions are premises and which propositions are argument, which propositions are conclusion in an argument. So there are certain premise indicator and conclusion indicator words. So with the help of those words, we can identify which proposition is premise and which proposition is conclusion. So we'll discuss that part in detail later on. Some premise indicator words are for, since, because, and conclusion indicator words are therefore, it follows, hence, thus, so, etc. Now come to traditional classification of proposition. See, the traditional logicians, they have classified propositions into two parts. First one is categorical proposition, and the second one is conditional proposition. Now, like I said, a proposition is composed of subject, predicate, and predicate term as well as copula. So, in conditional propositions, certain conditions are applied, okay, where um, predicate is either affirmative or denial to the subject of the given proposition on certain condition. Okay, conditional propositions are those propositions which are stated with some conditions. Here, certain conditions are applied. So, conditional propositions are divided into two parts. First one is hypothetical proposition, and the second one is disjunctive proposition. Now, what is hypothetical proposition? Hypothetical propositions are those propositions. Hypothetical propositions are those propositions which are where we join two simple propositions with the help of if and then relationship. We join two statements with the help of if and then relationship. And for example, if you work hard, then you will succeed. Or if you get tickets, then we shall go for picnic. Now, on the other hand, disjunctive propositions are those propositions where we join two statements by with either or relationship. For example, either he will attend the meeting or he'll go to home, or either I will go to library or attend the conference. So this is what conditional propositions are. Now come to the categorical proposition, which is an important part of your syllabus. Now categorical propositions are those propositions which are stated without condition. Okay, here the categorical propositions are those propositions where the predicate of the proposition is either affirmative or negative to the subject of the given proposition without any condition. Here the conditions are not applied. For example, all men are mortal. The subject is men and the predicate is mortal. Here the predicate term is affirmative to the subject of the given proposition and it is stated without any condition. So this is known as categorical proposition. Similarly, the next one, no fishes are mammals. So here the predicate term mammal is denial or negative to the subject of the given proposition. So these are two examples. Now next part of categorical proposition is the types of categorical propositions. The categorical propositions are divided into universal and particular proposition. There are two kinds of universal proposition, that is universal affirmative proposition denoted by A, universal negative proposition denoted by E, particular affirmative proposition denoted by I, and particular negative proposition denoted by O. Now let us discuss these four kinds of or the components of categorical propositions one by one. Propositions one by one. The first one is universal affirmative proposition. It is denoted by capital A, and the standard form of universal affirmative proposition is all S is P. Okay? S is the subject and P is the predicate. And so this subject and predicate of all these four kinds of categorical proposition can either be an object or a thing, living or non-living thing. It can represent a class, and that class can be either a matter or object or a living thing or a non-living thing. So for example, all men are mortal. And why this is called universal? Because we are talking about all members that belongs to the subject of the proposition, and it is called affirmative because the predicate of the proposition is affirmative subject of the given proposition. So this is what universal affirmative proposition is. Now come to universal negative proposition, which is denoted by E, and the standard form of universal negative proposition is no SSP. It is universal again because the entire class of subject is mutually exclusive to the entire class of predicate of the given proposition. For example, no fishes are mammals. Now come to the third one, that is particular affirmative proposition. It is denoted by I, and the standard form of particular affirmative proposition is some SSP. It is particular because we are referring to some members that belongs to the subject of the given proposition, and again it is affirmative because the predicate is affirmative to the subject of the given proposition. For example, some men are wise. Okay, you can take some other examples as well. Some men are hardworking. Some flowers are beautiful. The only thing is that the standard form should remain same throughout the domain of the logic whenever we are talking about four kinds of categorical proposition. Now the fourth one is particular negative proposition. It is denoted by O, and the standard form is some S is not P. Some S is particular against some members that belong to the subject of the given class, and negative because the predicate is negative to the subject of the given proposition. For example, some students are not voters. Okay, some men are not hardworking beings. Or so these are four kinds of categorical proposition. I hope it is clear to you what categorical propositions are and what are four kinds of categorical proposition. So you have to remember the standard form of these four kinds of categorical proposition. Now come to the next part, that is the quality and the quantity. Quality and the quantity. See, the traditional logician, they have introduced two more notions in order to distinguish these four kinds of categorical proposition. Okay? And these two notions or criteria are quality and quantity. Now, on the basis of the quantity and the quality of a proposition, we will again distinguish the categorical proposition into different parts, into different types. Now, first one is quantity. Now, what do you mean by quantity? Quantity of a proposition is related to the generalization of the subject of the proposition. Quantity of the proposition is related to the generalization of the subject of the proposition. Now, what do you mean by generalization? Generalization is basically the number of members who are present in the subject of the given proposition. Like I said, a proposition is composed of the subject and the predicate. So here the generalization refers to the number of members who are there in the subject of the given proposition. So on the basis of that, the generalization is divided into two parts, that is restricted or unrestricted. Restricted or unrestricted. Now what is restricted? Restricted where the numbers of members in the subject class is restricted, that is particular proposition. Okay. Now there are, like I said, there are two kinds of particular proposition, that is I and O. For example, some students are scholarship holders or some students are not scholarship holders is an example of restricted proposition. Now, on the other hand, unrestricted proposition where the number of members in subject class is not restricted, and two universal proposition, that is universal affirmative proposition and universal negative proposition, is a part of unrestricted proposition. For example, all crows are black or no crows are white. These two are examples of A and E proposition. So on the basis of the generalization of the proposition, we have divided the proposition into two parts, that is universal and the particular. And the universal proposition is universal affirmative proposition and universal negative proposition, and particular, that is particular affirmative and particular negative proposition. So this is what quantity of a proposition is.
Ma'am,
Yes.
ma'am, sorry to disturb, but actually my battery is running low. So can I join from my phone? Please let me in.
Yes.
Okay,
Sure.
ma'am.
Okay. Now the next part is I hope whatever I'm teaching right now is making sense to you. In case if you have not understood, you can ask your doubts as well. Now come to the quality of the proposition. See, the quality of the proposition means whether predicate is affirmative or negative to the subject of the given proposition. This part we have already discussed. So quantity is quality of a proposition is again divided into affirmative or the negative proposition. Now, what is affirmative proposition? Affirmative proposition when subject is assigned to or affirmative to the predicate of the given proposition, or predicate is affirmative to the subject of the given proposition, then that is called the affirmative proposition. Okay? And on the basis of affirmative quality, we have divided the category. We have two kinds of affirmative proposition. The first one is all SSP, and the second one is some SSP. Now come to the next part, that is negative proposition. If the predicate is denial to the subject of the given proposition, then that is called the negative proposition. And we have two kinds of negative proposition. The first one is universal negative proposition, that is standard form is no SSP or no men are unwise. And the second one is particular negative proposition, and that is some S is not P. Is it clear to you the quality and quantity of the given proposition? Class?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So let us quickly revise what we did. Okay, what is logic? Logic is a systematic study of reasoning, and the aim of logic is to provide methods and techniques through which we can validate an argument, as well as we can differentiate between the right reasoning from the wrong reasoning. Now, there are two branches of logic. First one is the formal logic, where we evaluate an argument on the basis of the structure of an argument. The second one is informal logic, where we evaluate an argument on the basis of the content or the matter of an argument. Now come to reasoning. Reasoning is a mental process where we formulate an argument on the basis of the evidences, and based on those evidences, we arrive at the conclusion of an argument. And the term premise is used to denote evidence in an argument. Now come to argument. Argument is a piece of reasoning, or it is a relational arrangement of premises and conclusion. And both the premises and the conclusion of an argument are called propositions, and propositions are always evaluated as either true or false. And on the other hand, arguments are evaluated as valid or invalid. Three types of proposition: tautologous proposition, a proposition which is always true; self-contradictory proposition, a proposition which is always false; and the third, contingent, which is true in some cases and it is false in some cases. Then the relationship between proposition and a sentence, where a proposition every proposition is a sentence, but every sentence is not a proposition, because there are certain statements and sentences which we do not evaluate as either true or false. Now, four kinds of traditional classification of proposition. It is divided into two parts. First one is categorical and another one is conditional. Conditional propositions are those propositions where predicate is assigned or denied to the subject of given proposition on the basis of certain conditions. And on the other hand, categorical propositions where predicate is either affirmative or denial to the subject of the given proposition without any condition. Now, categorical propositions is of four types. First two types are universal affirmative proposition, and the standard form of universal affirmative proposition is all SSP. Standard form of universal negative proposition, which is denoted by E, is no SSP. Third one is particular affirmative proposition denoted by I, and standard form is some SSP. And fourth one is particular negative proposition denoted by O, that is some S is not P. Now let's do one class activity. on the basis of the quality and quantity of a proposition.
मैम स्क्रीन शेयर बंद हो गई.
Yes, मैं शेयर कर रही हूँ. Okay. Right now, like I said, what is quantity of a proposition? Quantity of a proposition is related to the generalization of the subject of the proposition, and it is divided into two parts. First one is universal and second one is particular. And the quality of a proposition means either whether the predicate is assigned or denied to the subject of the proposition. That actually defines the quality of the proposition. So the
Excuse me.
quality, yes.
मैम स्क्रीन शेयर अभी भी नहीं हुई.
अच्छा नहीं हुई है. Okay, let's wait.
मैम शेयर है पहले.
हो रही है.
हो रही है. Okay, so quality is again two types, that is affirmative or negative proposition. Now the question is, state the quality and quantity of the following proposition. Now you have to tell me what is the quality or what is the quantity of the given proposition. Now the first one is all SSP. All SSP है, तो इसका quality and quantity क्या होगा?
Universal affirmative.
Right, universal affirmative proposition. So this all SSP is the standard form of universal affirmative proposition. Now the next one is no SSP. What is the
Universal
quality?
negative.
Universal negative.
Right. The third one is some SSP.
Conditional affirmative.
Particular
Particular affirmative.
Right. And the fourth one is some S is not P.
particular negative.
Particular
Right.
negative.
So, okay. Now the question may come in this form: all children are innocent beings. So this is an example of which kind of
Universal
categorical
affirmative.
proposition?
Universal affirmative.
Universal
Right.
affirmative.
Okay. Next one is no saint is cheater.
Universal
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 negative.
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 Right. Yes, universal negative proposition. And the last one is some roses are not red things.
Particular
Particular
negative.
negative.
Yes, this is an example of particular negative proposition. So I'm assuming that whatever I have taught is making sense to you. Okay, now let's begin with the next topic. Okay, can you see the screen right now, which I'm sharing?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so now the next topic is distribution of terms. Okay, now what do you mean by term? See, a proposition is composed of subject and predicate. So both subject and predicate of a proposition is called terms because it has a meaning of its own. Okay, so a term can be defined as a word or a group of words which is either subject or the predicate of a proposition. For example, all cats are mammals. So here the cat is called the subject term and mammal is called the predicate term. Now again, all terms are words and all words may not be term because there are certain words which does not have a definite meaning. So this is the reason why all terms are words and all words are not terms. Now your topic is distribution of terms. Now what do you mean? A term is said to be distributed if it refers to all the members of the subject or the predicate class of a proposition. I'm repeating it again. A term is said to be distributed if it refers to all the members of the subject or the predicate of the given proposition. This is one way to define. The another way to define what is a distribution of terms. A term is said to be distributed when it include or exclude all the members of the subject class. Not in or exclude all the members, then that term is not distributed. So the definition will be more clear to you when I will discuss the distribution of terms in categorical proposition. So now we will discuss whether the subject or the predicate of the categorical propositions are distributed or not. Now the first categorical proposition is universal affirmative proposition denoted by A. Now all SSP. Now we'll see whether the subject and the predicate of A proposition is distributed or not. For example, when I say all senators are citizens, now we have to check whether the subject term or the predicate term is distributed or not. Now, can you tell me whether the subject of universal affirmative proposition is distributed or not? See, a term is said to be distributed if it refers to all the members of the subject or the predicate class, or a term is distributed when it completely include or completely exclude all the members of the class. Now here in this example, universal affirmative proposition, the standard form, that is all SSP, here the subject of the proposition is always distributed. Why? Because, like I said, a term is said to be distributed if it refers to all the members of the subject class. So here when I say all senators, so here we are referring to all the members that belongs to the subject class. So the subject of the giver of A proposition is distributed. Now the predicate term, that is citizen, it is undistributed. Now can you tell me why the predicate of universal affirmative proposition is undistributed when I say all senators are citizens? Have you understood what distribution of terms is? A term is said to be distributed if it refers to all the members of the subject or the predicate class. Now, when I say all senators are citizens, here the subject term is always distributed because we are talking about all the members that belongs to the subject class of the A proposition. Now, for predicate, the predicate, that is citizen, is undistributed because we are not talking about all the members who are citizens. Here we are referring to only some citizens who are senators. There are other citizens as well apart from senators. So the predicate of universal affirmative proposition is undistributed. Have you understood? Do you want me to repeat?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
So in universal affirmative proposition, subject is distributed and predicate is not distributed. Now universal negative proposition, E proposition, no SSP or no men are immortal. Here both subject and predicate terms are a term is said to be distributed if it completely include or exclude the members of the subject or the predicate of a given proposition. So when I say no SSP, then the entire class of subject and the entire class of predicate, they are mutually exclusive to each other. So in universal negative proposition, both subject and the predicate is distributed. Now the third one is
मैम
particular. Yes.
इमोर्टल तो अनडिस्ट्रीब्यूटेड होना चाहिए ना, क्योंकि इमोर्टल के अंदर तो मैन के अलावा भी आ सकते हैं.
See, when I say no SSP or no men are immortal, so जो class है immortality का, वो completely here we are, हाँ, जो class है immortality का, वो completely exclude हो जा रहा है class of members से. इसीलिए subject और predicate जो है E proposition में दोनों distribute हो रहे हैं. Class or the characteristics of immortality is completely denial of the class of the men. That is the
Okay,
subject
समझ
of the given proposition. Now come to particular affirmative proposition. Particular affirmative. और एक बात ये भी है कि here we are evaluating a statement or an argument on the basis of the structure of an argument. So here we are concerned with the structure only. We are not very much concerned about the content of an argument. See, a proposition can be true, a proposition can be false, but we will do the evaluation on the basis of the structure of an argument. So हमेशा आपको याद रखना पड़ेगा कि standard form क्या है, all SSP, standard form categorical propositions के क्या है, all SSP, so all men are hardworking being. ये factually true नहीं है, लेकिन हमें structure wise ही आपको मतलब दिमाग में रखना है. Now the next is particular affirmative proposition denoted by I, that is some SSP. So now can you tell me whether the subject of the particular affirmative proposition is distributed or not? Now when I say some students are voter or some SSP, now you have to tell me whether the predicate of the subject of the particular affirmative proposition is distributed or not.
No, ma'am.
Yes, right.
No, ma'am.
The subject and the predicate both are not distributed because here we are talking about some members both in subject and the predicate class. So there are certain common members in both subject class, that is subject, and the predicate subject class, that is student, and the predicate, that is voter. So in particular affirmative proposition, both subject and predicate of a proposition is undistributed. Now come to particular negative proposition, that is some S is not P. Some S is not P. Now it is understood now when I say some men are not tall beings. So here the subject of the given proposition is not distributed because we are talking about some members. Now can you tell me whether the predicate of particular negative proposition is distributed or not?
Undistributed. ma'am.
Undistributed.
See, the thing is, the predicate of the particular negative proposition is distributed. Why it is distributed? Like I said, a term is said to be distributed if it completely include or exclude the entire members that belong to the subject or the predicate class. Now, when I say some members are not tall being, here the being is completely excluded from some members, some are excluded from some men. So this is the reason the predicate of the particular negative proposition is distributed. Have you understood why the predicate of?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
See, when I say some men are not tall being, so here the characteristic or the class of tall being is completely exclusive of some men. So this is the reason why the predicate of the particular negative proposition is distributed. Or when I say some horses are not thoroughbred, so the characteristic of thoroughbred is completely excluded from some members of that belongs to the subject class, that is horse. So this is the reason why the particular predicate of the particular negative proposition is distributed. समझ में आया आपको?
इसका वेन डायग्राम दिखाना मैम एक बार आप.
डायग्राम तो उस पे नहीं बनाया मैंने.
बनेगा कैसे, एक बार वो बता दो आप.
2 ओवरलैपिंग सर्कल्स लोगे और जैसे ये है ना, जैसे ऊपर वाला जो 2 ओवरलैपिंग सर्कल्स है, इसमें हम x पुट करेंगे ऑन S which is not a part of P. ओके, आप 2 ओवरलैपिंग सर्कल्स देख रहे हो I का, तो फर्स्ट लेट अस उसको नंबरिंग करते हैं लाइक 1 2 एंड 3. सो द जो फर्स्ट पार्ट होगा वहाँ पे आप x पुट करेंगे for particular negative proposition.
Okay,
See,
ma'am.
there are some members who is excluded from the class of P. Have you understood what is the distribution of terms?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, in A proposition, the subject is distributed and predicate is undistributed. In E proposition, subject is distributed and predicate is also distributed. In I proposition, subject is undistributed and predicate is also undistributed. And in O proposition, subject is undistributed and predicate is distributed. Okay. That's all for today's class. In case if you have any doubts to ask, you can ask me now.
मैम एग्जाम्स होंगे ये लॉजिकल रीजनिंग के?
क्या बोल रहे हो? एक मिनट।
मैम अभी क्लास टेस्ट शुरू होने वाले हैं हमारे, तो ये लॉजिकल रीजनिंग के होंगे?
हाँ, इसके भी होंगे। वेट, मैं बता रही हूँ आपका इवैल्यूएशन कैसे होगा। Okay, for evaluation, just wait. Okay, on your screen, you can see how we are going to evaluate. See, the total marks is 100. Okay, 25 marks is for your midterm project. Okay, there you have to submit one research project. Okay, and then 25 marks is for your internal assessment, and end term is it carries 50 marks where you have to give 3 online tests, and best 2 will be considered for evaluation, and 2 surprise tests, best 1 will be considered for evaluation. See, I will be giving you the instructions one by one in your coming classes for your midterm project, for your internal assessment, and as well as for your end term online exams. So this is how we are going to evaluate. For midterm project, see, I'll tell you in detail in your next class, like as how you have to do your research project. Basically, you have to choose one topic. First, you have to submit a proposal, and for proposal, you have to choose a topic that is relevant to your paper. Okay, and based on that, you have to prepare your proposal, and then you have to submit your final project as well later on. Is there anything that you want to ask?
हम रिसर्च प्रोजेक्ट जैसे बाकी सब्जेक्ट्स में हो रहा है तो वो ग्रुप में हो रहा था, यहाँ में इंडिविजुअल करना है, ग्रुप में करना?
नहीं, यहाँ भी आप ग्रुप में करोगे, ग्रुप ऑफ 2 स्टूडेंट्स मैक्सिमम।
3 स्टूडेंट्स?
2 स्टूडेंट्स।
2 स्टूडेंट्स, ठीक है मैम।
2 स्टूडेंट। और नेक्स्ट क्लास में see, I can tell, if you want, I can explain how you have to write your proposal in today's class only. Wait.
Ma'am, please explain.
Okay, wait, just wait. Okay. So this is how, first what you have to do, you have to prepare a proposal. For that you have to choose a topic. Okay. And I have given certain themes relevant to your paper, so you can use these themes to choose your topic, like deductive argument, inductive argument, comparative study on deductive and inductive argument, traditional logic, history of logic, symbolic logic, transition from traditional logic to symbolic logic, evolution of logic, importance of logic, understanding the baseline of logic, traditional square of proposition, propositional logic, advantages and importance of logical arguments in our life, then introduction and importance of logical reasoning, formal logic, informal logic, comparative study on formal and informal logic, then comparative study on deduction, induction, Aristotle logic, fallacies is basically the error that we commit in our day-to-day life. So fallacies in logic, then moral reasoning, the inductive and deductive method of Aristotelian logic, types of logic, nature of logic, distribution of logic. So these are certain themes, and based on these themes you can choose your topic, or you can choose a topic from your syllabus, or you can choose any other relevant topic on logic relevant to your paper. So ये certain themes हैं, ये certain topics है जिसपे आप अपना proposal prepare करेंगे. And now how you have to do, every group 1 to 2 members, they have to choose one topic from the above mentioned themes, or you can choose a topic from the syllabus as well. And first you have to submit a proposal, and for proposal you have to this is how you have to prepare your proposal. Front page, okay, then you have to, in second page you have to write down the topic, that is the title of your project. Then in third page, acknowledgement, and the fourth, that is the main part of the proposal, that is abstract. Abstract is basically the short summary of a long project, where you have to mention I have written certain pointers as well, which will help you to write down your abstract, where you have to mention the overall purpose and the objective of your study, like why do you want to do on this project, why have you chosen this project, what do you want to do in this project, what are the problems that is associated with this project, is there any solution, how we can minimize, or what is the practical relevance of your topic. So this is how you have to prepare your abstract. Then you have to conclude, and conclusion is optional, and you have to write down the bibliography. So this is how you have to prepare. I will share this PDF as well in your group. And the last date for the submission of the proposal is 31st of January. To choose a topic, do research and search on that topic, see what are the readings and journals and articles are available on that particular topic, and prepare your proposal. In case if you find any difficulty as what to choose or how to write an abstract, I'm there to guide you. You can ask your queries on my number as well. So this is how you have to prepare your proposal. And then final submission के लिए भी मैं deadline आपको later on बताऊंगी. I'll give you the time. Don't worry. Is there anything? कोई doubt है आपको? Like how you have to prepare your proposal and project?
No, ma'am.
मैम ये कितने पेजेस का बनाना है?
This is 5 to 6 pages.
Okay, मैम.
मैम एग्जांपल शेयर कर दोगे ग्रुप में?
क्या पूछ रहे हो?
एग्जांपल्स शेयर कर दोगे मैम प्रोजेक्ट्स के ग्रुप पे?
प्रोजेक्ट तो मैं वैसे नहीं आपको शेयर करूंगी, मैं प्रपोजल का इसमें एक सैंपल भी अटैच्ड है.
ओके मैम.
हाउ टू राइट, आप उससे हेल्प ले सकते हो. एंड सी आई एम देयर टू गाइड यू इन एवरी पॉसिबल वे. तो आपको जो भी क्वेरी हो, आप लाइक एज क्या टॉपिक चूज करें, कैसे एब्स्ट्रैक्ट लिखे, तो आप मुझे मैसेज कर सकते हो मेरे नंबर पे।
मैम पीडीएफ बनानी है पीपीटी?
आप पे डिपेंड करता है, आप पीडीएफ भी यूज कर सकते हो, पीपीटी भी या वर्ड डॉक्यूमेंट। तो जस्ट मेक श्योर कि मतलब आपका कंटेंट सही से होना चाहिए, रेलेवेंट होना चाहिए। दैट इज व्हाट इज।
मैम इंडिविजुअली कर सकते हैं?
हाँ, इंडिविजुअल भी कर सकते हो, बट मैं सजेस्ट करूँगी ग्रुप में करो। तो इंडिविजुअल ग्रुप में वही है कि 1 to 2 मेंबर्स है, तो आप ग्रुप बना लो तो बेटर है। अगर नहीं बना पा रहे हो तो इंडिविजुअल भी सबमिट कर सकते हो।
मैम अभी तो टाइम होगा ना, अभी तो काफी टाइम बाद ही करना होगा प्रोजेक्ट सबमिट।
हाँ, आपको प्रपोजल सबमिशन है आपका 31 जनवरी, ठीक है। सो आपके पास है 3 वीक टाइम है आपके पास, आप सोचो कैसे क्या करोगे। एंड फाइनल सबमिशन मैं आपको बताऊंगी, आपको टाइम दूंगी मैं 1 मंथ और आपको टाइम दूंगी, मार्च में सबमिशन रखूंगी आपका।
हम अब और कुछ पढ़ाओगे या वैसे लीव कर सकते हैं?
ओके, दैट्स इट। ओके, दिस इज, आपको डाउट्स थे वो मैंने डिस्कस कर लिए। सो नाउ दोज हु हैव नॉट रिटन देयर नेम्स एंड रोल नंबर इन द चैट बॉक्स, राइट डाउन योर नेम and roll number. I will mark your attendance from there and from the screenshots which Laksh has taken in the class itself. So now, if you don't have any doubts to ask, you can leave. जिनको doubts है वो अपने doubts पूछ ले, और जिनको नहीं है they can leave now.